Good afternoon everyone, it's Caroline here from Caroline's Corner here on Flosstube. It's Tuesday the 22nd of July and I'm here for my end of term update. Yeah, I've made it to the end of the academic year. I am just about still standing. It was a bit touch and go the last few days because I've gone down with a bad dose of the end of term grot. Bad enough that if it hadn't been the very last day of term on Friday, I would have called in sick because I was really struggling. But it was the last day of term and I had so much to do to finish the year out and complete off all our students. So I didn't have a lot of choice. So thank you for coming to join with me and hang out with me today. I'd like to welcome any new watchers. Please hang around, like, subscribe, leave me comments. I do like them. Not always the greatest at replying, but I do get there eventually. And to all returning viewers, thank you very much for coming back, and it's lovely to see you all again. This is going to be a video mostly about cross stitch. There will be a bit of knitting at the end because I've done some knitting. No quilting this time because I just haven't had a chance to get my sewing machine out really. You can find me mostly on Instagram. I am at Caroline A. Kemp, and Caroline is spelled with a K. I do have a blog which I update occasionally. It's carolinescorner.blogspot.com. So it was the week before half term when I last recorded, so this is likely to be quite a long video because I've got a fair bit to share with you. Half term was spent down in the West Country because my daughter wanted to go look at Exeter and Bristol unis. We are at the UCAS application stage, so we've done a lot of running around the country looking at various different universities, but she's got the 5 she's going to put on a form now and that she's happy with, so that's good. I have my coffee in my mug from the Peakside Needleworks retreat with Beth Twist, and this was a gift from Sue and Beth. I will talk more about the retreat later on in the video. I'm going to go through some fully finishes and my whips first, and then I'll go on to the retreat. So I've got my coffee to keep me going. So grab a brew and we'll get stuck in. First thing I've got to show is actually a fully finished object. If you've been with me for a while, this will come as, you've seen this a lot when I was stitching on it, but I have done the full finishing on the Fruits of the Vine Sample Hussif with my needle, Ellen Chester. This was a class I took back in 2011, May 2011 at Fobbles up in the Lake District when Ellen was over in the UK and she taught some classes, and it's taken a while but it's finally done. So I've been working at the finishing on this over the last few months. I did a chunk, I done a bit at home. I did a chunk of it at the Modern Quilt Club retreat in April, and then I finished it off at a retreat with friends in June. So just do it back up again. I've undone it. Here we are. This is my fully finished Hussif. So it has this band outside to hold it together, and then the sampler that I stitched over a year. Finished in 24 May to, I think it was July 24. I finished all the stitching on this. So this is the sampler. I have shot some close-up video, so we'll put that in at the end of the segment. And this is the inside. So at the quilt retreat, mostly what I did was do the various pockets and components. It's still not quite, I could do some more finishing. There's a pocket here that Ellen suggests putting some tacking in to hold your various tools. But as I haven't quite decided exactly what's going in yet, I haven't done that. There was also a scissor fob. There's a little charm on it. It's got a bird and grapes and some grapes on the others. And I got these iridescent scissors because I thought they went with it quite nicely. There's the pin cushion down the bottom. That's a mattress pin cushion that's attached in. So this is called the tool pocket, and like I say, you can, oh yes, I have one tool in there, that's my seam ripper. So when I eventually decide what's going in here, I shall probably put some tacking in to make pockets so everything stands up. So there's a little pocket at the bottom, main pocket. This pocket's got a little crease in the middle, and there is thread loops at the top and a divided bind to hold your thread smooth. And then the only other piece is a little needle roll, which is actually the piece we did in the class. So embroidered on the outside, lined, and then with needles on the inside. Love this piece, and it was a perfect piece to take to retreat. So some people got a good look at this at the Peakside retreat. Like I say, I have taken some video and I shall put that in here. And now onto my rotation pieces. And we'll start with my focus piece, which continues to be a piece by Lauren Sauer of Forgot-Me-Nots in Stitches. It's called Mistress L's Sampler of Albert Bands, Emblems and Symbols. So this was another class I took through Hanging by a Thread, Susan, this was an online shop that was based down in London. Sadly, Susan, who's the owner, passed away a few years ago. And Lauren came over to teach in 2013. And this was actually the last class I got to take through Susan. And here's what I'm up to. As you can see, she's a big girl. I will put in a picture of where I was at my last video here. And here's my progress. So it's been worked on a couple of times since I last recorded. I think I was around these leaves. So I've done all this down here, and this band puts me to about the halfway point. So I have finished that first side there. So I'm going to be getting on to the really interesting bits very, very shortly when I pick it up again. So I really enjoyed stitching that honeysuckle there. I'm enjoying doing the strawberries. There's some roses and pansies to go in that band there as well. It's nice that I'm starting to get some colour in it and it's not all just dark green. I finished all the dark green is forest green from Sampler threads, and I am on to my second skein of the forest green. Otherwise it's being stitched with a mix of Verissoir silks and Sampler threads. Just put that down, that's easier to show you the... So Lauren always puts her threads on a painter's palette affair, so that's some of the Sampler threads, some of the rest, and the beautiful silk colours. All the wording is done in this Verissoir green. I'm really enjoying seeing progress on that one, because this was one where there was no pre-stitching, so we started it in class and I think I got one row, top row in, and that was about it. When I picked it up as a focus, I was here. I'd got up there. So since I think it's about April, I've done all this, which I'm really pleased about. And the fabric for this one is 40 count antique weight. This was my first 40 count project, which is one of the reasons it hung around and didn't really get worked on quite as much, because it's an absolute stunner and I did not want to make a mistake on it. So that's my focus piece. Bear with me while I get next one up. So onto my rotation pieces. In the small medium slot, so while I was away at Springbank, I was working on a Sampler Grows by the Scarlett house, and I will put in a picture of where I started here. And this is where I've got to. I've got the house completely finished, because it had taken quite a while to get the house built. I started this, I think, in 2020, and didn't get very far with it. I think I've just had outlines of the house for quite a while, so to get it finished is quite nice. Got some of the rice stitch grass in, made a start on some of the lots and lots of over one, which I hadn't quite anticipated when I decided to do it on this particular scrap of 40 count. So this is a scrap of 40 count Lakeside linen pearl barley, and it's on an Italian linen base, Graziano linen, which I don't think you can get anymore. Lovely linen, but it's a very tight weave for 40 count, so it's one reason that it's proved to be so slow. But very glad to have some solid progress in on that one now. As for colours, I'm stitching it in silk. It's charted for MPI, and where I had the MPI, I pulled it out of I have a large stash of MPI. I pulled it out. Where I didn't have the call for colour, I pulled the DMC and then went into my large stash of MPI and a Verissoir and went for the nearest match. So this is my own colour conversion, but I'm still stitching it in silks. So that is a Sampler Grows. So really nice to see to be able to move on from that house. I was getting a bit fed up with the house building, but it's done now. Well, that sort of thing always takes longer than you think. So then my tiny decision wheel spun it for my large projects, and it came up with Jonson 1825, sorry, 1832, from Hands Across the Sea needlework, and I will put in a picture of where I started now. Here is my progress on Anne. She's on 46 count iced tie linen. Anne is an exclusive to Traditional Stitches in Canada, and I think they still have, Janine still has copies of Anne available. I got the kit from Janine because which I ordered at the Great British Sampler Weekend because I saw the model, which incidentally was stitched on 56 count, and got completely overwhelmed by the sampler fumes, as I think quite a lot of us did. So yeah, so it's noticeable progress. Still quite slow because I'm finding stitching on the 46 quite slow. I'm using DMC, the Call for DMC threads. There we go. So I finished the side border. I could put a little bit across the top. Mostly I was working on these, getting the trees in, so I could, yeah. But I filled some space. It feels like not quite such a small start anymore. Really quite enjoyed working on Anne. She's just, like I say, slow going, and she's going to be a big girl because I have all that fabric still to fill. I am up here. Go. So yeah, quite a bit to go. She was my birthday start last year, so it was nice to get some progress on her this year. My aim with my rotation is, apart from a couple of pieces, I've got my focus piece, which comes up every round, and then I work on another large piece, which I choose by spinning a tiny decisions wheel, and then the same with a medium piece to bring up whips, and then I work on another small to medium piece that is a new start. And my new start, and this time around for my rotation it was a new start, and I spun a decision wheel, and it threw Blackbird Designs again. It seems determined I am only going to start Blackbird Designs, so I decided, no, actually I've done a couple of Blackbird smalls this year. I fancied doing something different, so I spun it again and it came up with the drawn thread. Now I have a huge stash of drawn thread charts, because when I first got into cross stitch, she was one of the designers I loved, and I bought everything she did. So this is back from, I think, about 1994, and is called Spring. She had 4 seasonal samplers. I've stitched autumn, and so I really need to get on with the others, so it's been quite nice to work on spring. Here we go. This is my start on spring. This has 1 and a bit rotation rounds on because I am currently working on it. It's come up again. So my first round I got down to the bottom of these narcissi, I got them stitched, and since I picked it up again I've got those 2 rows in and I'm taking the border down. Almost at the halfway point on this one now. It's looking lovely, it's beautiful and delicate, and so nice to go back to my first love of drawn thread. So I am stitching this one on 36 count Lakeside Linen Bittersweet from Deep Stash. Must have had it for quite some time. It predates my children by quite a few years, and the oldest is 17, so there you go. And I'm using the called for DMCs and Needle Necessities. Now they are now called Threadworks, and both of these colours are available in the Threadworks range, because not all of the Needle Necessities colours are. So, but I'm loving the delicate colours, the greens and the pale apricots in this piece. It's very, very soothing to work on, and I'm loving it. Then the next piece I worked on was by Indigo Rose, and it's called Remember Me. It was a cover for a photo album. I'll put a picture of where I started here. And this is where I'm up to. So I've completed one side, completed the spine, and I'm getting the borders in on the second side. So I had just started the border vine last time I worked on this, which was last October, because I took it on holiday to Greece with me. So I've managed to get through and get a good chunk of the border in. I just need to finish the yellow on this inside border. Done. So when it's finished, it will look like that. Should give you an idea of how old this kit is. It's got a photo on the top. Now this was a market exclusive in 2003. And what you were doing is making a cover, one of these little photo albums. Now, I have no need of a photo album anymore. I don't think any of us do photo albums anymore. What we do in our house is every year we make a photo book with the highlights of holidays and stuff that's happened, and print that off, so we don't put photos in an album. So I'm probably not going to use this. Another picture of what it looks like finished. So yeah, so I'm on this side here, so I'm going to be getting onto some fun things like spider's web roses and queen stitch strawberries and other fun stuff. So what I'm thinking with this is I might make it into a sewing portfolio of some description. Given it's got the spine down the middle, might make some sort of 3D etui or say portfolio of some description. So I'm stitching this on 32 count Lugana with the DMC that came in the kit. So it was sold as a kit, so it was a market exclusive, and you know, that I had to have at the time. It's one of the things, and I know I say this every time, that makes it really easy to not jump on every exclusive and deal with the FOMO, is when I look over at my shelves and I see all the stuff that I absolutely had to have and have never started. So I started that one in 2021. like I say, and the chart, and it was an exclusive release in 2003. But I get there in the end. And then after I'd finished working on Indigo Rose, what came up when I spun my wheel for another large project was Mary Gypson by Wildflower Snaps. I bought this when it was an exclusive project for the Homespun Needlework Facebook group. It's since on general release, so you can buy it on Christina's website. I will put it, I started it as my leap year start on the 29th of February last year, and it got worked on for one day and then didn't get worked on again until it got picked up this time round. So I will put a picture of where I was when I picked it up in now. And here is my progress on Mary. Actually, mate, I'm quite pleased. I rattled through my 10 hours on Mary. For those that don't know, I do a 10-hour rotation, 4 projects, 10 hours in each project. Because I was working on that this weekend, and with the aforementioned end of term grot, I just sat myself on the sofa and stitched for good chunks of time. So I have taken the border all the way across the top and the inside border all the way across the top, and I decided I would put the alphabets and numbers in so that to help with the counting, given my brain wasn't really working particularly well at the weekend. So I figured if I got all this alphabet and stuff in, it would help me know where I was, and it worked quite well. So yeah, really pleased now. I've got a decent start. She's still at the start stage and is going to be at the start stage for quite a while yet, but I actually feel like I've got a solid chunk of progress on Mary now. So I bought the kit when it was released as the exclusive, and so the fabric is 40 count. Let's check my notes. I think this one is Thornfield by Needle and Flax, and using the called for Weeks dye works. So a very nice little mini McBean's fob that came with the kit there. So yeah, and of course, well, I try not to buy the exclusives anymore, mostly on account I've got numerous ones sat on my shelf, and generally stuff is coming, particularly the ones on the Facebook group, they're being released before I get them even started, never mind finished. So they're on general release, so I'm trying to save my money that way and buy more stuff. So that is where I'm up to. That's what I worked on. I have, as I said, I'm currently working on spring. I'm a few hours into my rotation slot on spring, so I will keep going on that, and then I will do another 10 hours on Mistress L and get her further on. And then I've spun the wheel, so I know what my next whips, pardon me, that I'm working on are going to be. So my next small to medium whip is going to be And Many More. So if you watch any of my other videos, you'll know I actually have worked on this already this year. So my Tiny Decisions wheel obviously feels I need to finish it, which is fine by me. Here is where I am up to. on, and many more. So that's the front. This is a needle book, folded needle. So this is the inside cover. This is the back cover. So it's almost finished. I need to finish the over one bluebird, and there's a little bit of back stitching, and then it's just the flap, which, as you can see, is pretty full coverage, but I should get it done within 10 hours. So this will be a finish next time. When I go through that rotation slot. I'm not promising anything about how fast I'm going to get through my rotation slots, but hopefully, fingers crossed, next time you see this, it will be finished. Sorry, needed to cut out me having a bad coughing fit. So I'm stitching this on 28 count lambswool linen, and it's using mostly Splendor silks with one, it's upside down, there is one Silken Colours in there, which I think I've mostly used all of, which is used for the outline. So yeah, looking forward to getting that done and getting that finished. That was a shop exclusive from the Silver Needle in 2004. I go back to what I said previously about exclusives and things I needed to have, and have just the things that I've just sat there. So be really happy. I also got the finishing kit at the time I bought that, so I'm looking forward to getting it done. It's a companion piece to a little scissor fob keep that I did, that she issued for her 20th anniversary, 20 flowers. Obviously, so much time has gone by now that Silver Needle is at 40 years business. So, just saying. And when I spun my wheel to find out what my next big project was, it came up with this one, which again is another exclusive from the Facebook Homespun Needlework Facebook group run by Julie Casave. It was by the Scarlett House, and it's a sampler for all seasons, and this has been on general release for a couple of years now. I think it was on general release before I even got around to starting it, maybe, possibly, maybe not, maybe it came out just about the same time. Again, I bought the kit. It's only had a little bit of work on it. I started it in 2022 and it's not been worked on since, so this is what I got done when I started it in my 2022 rotation. So my plan for this time round is to finish the winter block, which I think is doable in 10 hours of stitching, especially given I've got the house outlined, and then see where else we get to. That's going to be my focus. I'm really it's not come out since I started it, so I'm really looking forward to getting some more work done on this. This is on 40 count Steinbeck from Needle and Flax, and it's using all the called for classic colourworks which came in the kit. I was very, very tempted by the Scarlett House exclusive this time round. However, then I looked at my shelf and I looked at the two Scarlett House exclusives, one I bought earlier this year from Hobby House and one 2 years ago from Homespun Needlework Facebook group that I haven't started yet, and thought, no, I can wait for the chart to come out. But I did like that one. Right, at this point I'm going to put all this stuff away, or at least move it, get all my stuff together from the Peakside retreat, and then we'll talk about retreat. So just bear with me. I'm going to pause you, and then I will come back. Right, what can I say about the Peakside retreat? It was fabulous. So Sue and Beth gave us these mugs. They were on our desks, chairs when we got there. You saw my pre-stitching that I'd done for the project. The project for the weekend was Ellen Gregory's Keepsake box. And we were also gifted with a full version of the chart because we'd got a interim version to work from. We were also gifted the sampler that Ellen took Ellen Gregory, that Beth took the motifs from. So I shall finish kitting Ellen Gregory up. Ellen is a Lancashire girl. Beth thought she was probably a mill worker. And that she probably stitched her sampler at Sunday school. She's certainly a lovely girl, and I really enjoyed stitching the pieces for the box and the smalls. So in the class we were finishing off this box. So covering it in fabric. The fabric is a Tilda fabric, lining the inside. I'm not going to take my lid off because it's quite tight. Sue had pre-painted the tops of the boxes. Then we mounted mounted the stitching on the top, added the trim, and glued it to the box. That was Saturday. That was fun. Most of us, I think virtually all of us, managed to finish our boxes off. Really pleased with how that came out. Definitely a technique I will probably use again. And I really enjoyed stitching my box. And then Beth had designed a series of smalls to go with it. So there was a fob, which again we got the instructions on how to finish in the class. I just put the fabric on the back of mine because the card circles we were given were a little bit small for the design for the other side, so I'm going to do something different with that. And these stalk scissors are some vintage ones that we found in my mother-in-law's sewing supplies when we had to clear her house out. And then to date I've finished off a couple of the strawberry patterns that Beth gave us. So I did that one in the class. This one I finished when I got home. So I've just used some overdyed bias tape on the top because I'd run out of the silk ribbon. And I still have this piece to finish, which was going to be the other side of the fob, but was just a little too big. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do, is make it into a little drum pincushion. I managed to source some more of the fabric, the Tilda fabric. So I'm going to make that into a little drum pincushion. And I have a scrap of the Cafe au lait fabric from Fibres on a Whim, and I'm going to make a little needlebook to go with it and complete my set of smalls off that way. So yes, so Saturday was about finishing the box, Sunday was about finishing the fob and the strawberries. it was all a very relaxed pace. There was still time to do some of our own stitching, and chat and shop, because Sue had bought a boutique shop there as well. There was a bit of a feeding frenzy over the overdyed fabric. Thankfully I didn't feel I needed any because I have so much already. I had a lovely table. When I walked in, I walked straight into Catherine, who I was at the Big Stitch with, and Great British Sampler weekend, and I knew from Yorkshire Stitchers. So Catherine's Cocoa Cross Stitcher on Instagram. Also on our table was Sylvia, who is Quilt Fooling Around on Instagram. Susan, who is Flosses and Crosses on Instagram. Sian, who is Periwinkle Stitcher on Flosstube, and we all know Sian. Jackie, who is Away with the Fae on Instagram. Chris, who is Chris Hind 29 on Instagram. Jackie and Chris I knew through the Sampler Guild. And Hazel, who is Stitch Witch Hazel on Instagram. And it was a lovely table, and we had a lot of fun. So Beth was absolutely lovely, and she had her daughter with her, who was helping out when needed. I'll put some pictures in at the end of this segment but to be honest, I was just too busy absorbing the atmosphere to be having my camera out, and I wanted to get things finished. It is really nice to come out of a class without a pile of extra whips, but to come out with a pile of finished things. So yeah, so I have a couple of things to finish. So I'm probably going to stitch a little design for my needle book. I shall take one of the, possibly that one of the little flowers, which I think I'll put on the front, and then pick one of the birds to put, possibly that bird to put on the back of it, and then I will get it all finished hopefully by the time I record again. Now, as well as the mug, we got a couple more presents of Beth and Sue. We got a corner gauge made by Beth's husband, that was lovely, and we got some floss drops. So I shall look forward to using those. What shall I put? There were a few of us exchanged gifts. I merely exchanged gifts with my table. I took some, I'd been in Solston Green, and they sell ribbon and trim and things for paper crafting and packets, and some of their trim had actually reminded me very much of the colours in this piece, so I gifted my table mates with that. Then Aditya gave us this nice little bag cloth decoration to go on a bag or a false ring. SJ Stitches. It was a little bag with some floss drops and charm for scissors or a project bag and a tea bag. Hazel gave us all a little extendable magnet for when we dropped our needles. It'd be very useful. Sam of Little Loops gave us some counting pins, and Caroline from Tilly and Arthur gave us these little paper clips, which I shall put in my friendship album, because I'm still using my Aquith friendship album, friendship book, to keep track of my projects, and that'll come in very handy. And then of course I had to shop, would have been rude not to. So Sue had lots of little bits that she said were really difficult to put on her website. So there was some lovely bits from Stacey Nash. Again, I let other people go first, so they probably, and there wasn't a lot left. Got a ruler with a very apt saying on it. And I also got one of Taylor Nash's waxes. I got a raspberry. I already have a strawberry. Sorry for the glare. Taking them out of the plastic yet. So it'd be nice to have a raspberry as well. I got a few bits from Lady Dot. I got several bits of trim. Got some vintage rickrack. Thundercloud chenille and Grace Green twill. And a couple of bits of her velveteen in navy bean and tomato for finishing. And Sue also had a lot of different Lady Dot waxes. So I got Squirrel Snack, which is some little acorns for my autumn displays. Sorry about the cut there, I had a bad coughing fit. A couple of cards of Patini sewing related pins to use in my finishes. And then a few charts. I got a kit from La Di Da called To Gather Again to make a lovely drum. So that is on my wheel for when I get to a new start. Also on my wheel when I get to a new start is this little shepherd's bush fob. I've stitched several shepherd's bush fobs, and I think I've got more. I think I may still have one in my stash to do. I've certainly got several to finish up. That is called Blessings Grow fob. And then a little spool kit. It's by the Paper and Thread and Needlework Press. It's a little Christmas chart. Came with perforated paper, which I can't show you because that would show the chart, and you got a spool to mount it on. So again, on my new start list. And then the last thing I bought was a cross stitch collector, which I've loved since Sally stitched it and Sue had the board to mount it on. So it came with the fabric. So again, that one is on my list of things to stitch. So I will stick in a few pictures that I took at the retreat. So that was the Peakside retreat. I really hope Sue will do it again in a few years, and I really hope that Beth will come back over to teach, because she was absolutely lovely and we had a great time in the class. So to finish off, I'm just going to rattle through some of the stuff I've been knitting lately, because I actually have enough progress on my knitting to make it worth showing, which it wasn't last time. So first off has been I'm in some training. We had a big training work conference, so quite a bit of knitting got done in the last week of term on my socks. So these are the Rainy Window socks by Curious Handmade. I'm sorry about the state of the picture, but this is the one that lives in my travel knitting bag, and I'm not reprinting it. I've finished one sock. It's called the Rainy Window because it's got a pattern that looks like raindrops running down a window. These are knit in a 100% British woolen nylon by sock base from the Knitting Goddess, and the colourway was called Superhero Jeans. It was a charity colourway that she did. And this is where I'm up to on my second sock. When you last saw it, I was at the heel, so I have turned my heel and I'm working down the toe, and I don't think I've got that much. I'm almost at the toe. I think I've one more. Not that much further to go, and they will be done. So that's my socks, my Superhero Jeans. So loads of progress since you last saw them. Hopefully I can keep that up. And then all my knitting at the moment is by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. What can I say? I like her designs. The socks are from the Sock Society, I think number three maybe. I've lost track. We are currently on Sock Society 6, and yes, I did buy that one because I wasn't going to, and then she announced the theme was books, and I was just like, oh, she saw me coming, and so I had to buy the patterns. So there may be a few of those being knit, but don't hold your breath, because I have to finish stuff before I can start cast on some more stuff. So something that's had a bit of work again is the Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart. This is a scrappy project. She designed it to use an advent calendar. I'm using it as a way of using up some of my leftover yarn from shawl projects and sock projects. As I mentioned when I said where I'd got the stalk scissors from, we had to clear out my mother-in-law's house over the last few years, and she had lots of odds and sods of stuff and scraps of fabric and scraps of yarn, and I'm like, no, I need to use mine or get rid of it. So in an effort to use them, here is where I am on my Habitation Throw. So when you last saw it, I was there. So I have put in, I did have a set of minis, so I'm using those as well. So there's been one set of minis, and I'm on to another scrap of yarn from a shawl. So I'm on the decrease now. So you go out until you're happy with the width, and then you turn around. So I'm making good progress on my decreases. Because said daughter will be going to university in a year, I am expecting she's going to need a few blankets and things to keep herself warm in her halls of residence. Because my memory of halls of residence, though I suspect things have changed in the intervening 40 years, is they were cold and they were drafty. And depending where she ends up, they may still be cold and they may still be drafty, and the heating may still be thoroughly inadequate. particularly if she goes into rented housing afterwards, after her first year. So that's my progress on Habitation Throw. Oh, it's fun to work on. Keeps getting pulled out every so often. And because it's the holidays and I hadn't got a shawl on the needles, I decided I could treat myself to a new cast on. And I have cast on the Asana shawl from the very first Sock Society in 2016, I believe. Or at least that's when I downloaded the pattern. So yes, almost 10 years ago. So this was the third shawl, and I've knit the first two shawls of that particular Sock Society, Shawl Society rather. So I thought it was time, particularly because I kitted them all up at the time that I cast it on. So I have a very small cast on the Asana shawl, and the yarn I am using is from Blacker Yarns, who I don't think I see them around anymore. I think they may not be going anymore. And it is St Kilda lace weight, and it was a special collaboration with the Knitting Goddess in that Joy, dyed about 10 colourways for Blacker. So I have this really rich sort of pinky purple one. I think it was called Stack Ack Armin, and I have probably absolutely massacred the Gallic in that case for that one. So yes, so given the yarn, how long the yarn has been in my stash, I figured it was time it got knit. So that's my small start. I wound the yarn on Saturday and cast on then. So there's a couple of days work on there. So hopefully by the end of the holidays, it will be a bit bigger. And that's it. That's everything I've got for you. Thank you for hanging around if you've stuck with me this long. I'm hoping we have a good summer. It's been typically here. We've had a glorious over hot weather up to the point the schools broke up, when the heavens opened and it's rained and rained. I'm not complaining, because boy, we need the water. We're on a hosepipe ban here in Yorkshire, and driving through the Peak District to get to the Peakside retreat, I drove past quite a lot of reservoirs that were under half full. So we've really needed the heavy rain that we've had for the last few days, and my water butts are a lot more healthy, so I can water my pots again. And my grass is not looking nearly so parched. It's starting to turn green. We've had that much, but it's about part of the course in Yorkshire, in the Great Britain. So yeah, so my plan is to come back just before I go back to work. I say back to work, I'm working one day a week through the holidays, because I need to work back some time and I've got stuff to do. So and then so end of August, very beginning of September, my plan is to record again, because once we get the students back in, that will be me, and I will not have the headspace until we get to half term, which is going to be the end of October. So I want to come back and do another video before we get to that point. So thank you for hanging with me if you've been here this long and putting up with my rambling. I will go and get tidied up, because there's quite a bit to tidy up. The aftermath of a Flosstube is never pretty. And then I can go stitch, and hopefully catch the end of the stage of the Tour de France, because it's going to be an interesting one because it's month on 2. And I will see you all next time. Thank you. Bye.